Well, let's get into Supergirl. I like to read a couple negative and then a couple positive Rotten Tomatoes audience reviews, because the critics are, whatever. But it's interesting to me to hear what different people's experiences were watching it.
Yeah.
Plus, sometimes they're just really funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple negative ones. Don't waste your hard-earned money on this slop of a movie. Is it possible to get a refund? This is a movie that should have never hit theaters. And then this one was, this was another one. A spectacularly cheap-looking $200 million production, penned by someone whose resume boasts a single, lonely writing credit, centers on an insufferably jaded, cynical asshole lifted from the distinctly unpopular Tom King comic run. This character, naturally, is spared the inconvenience of genuine trials or meaningful decisions, gliding through the narrative with all the dramatic tension of a shrug. The plot, if one is feeling generous enough to call it that, is a masterclass in laziness, an uninspired chain of and then coincidences stitched together solely to drag the story forward. One can practically hear the brainstorming session. What's a movie people actually liked? Ah, yes, John Wick. And the dog. Perfect. We'll take that. As for the villain, they exist in the most perfunctory sense imaginable, committing vaguely defined acts of badness for reasons so underdeveloped they might as well be because who cares? So I thought that was really funny. And then there were a couple positive ones. This person says, way better than the David Cornsweet Superman movie. She was she was drunk and raunchy. That was why they gave it 5 out of 5.
Love that.
And then another exciting movie for the DCU that gives me hope for DC's future, knowing little about Supergirl before I saw the movie, aside from a quick YouTube rundown. I feel this movie did a great job at explaining her backstory and why her personality is that way. I have 5 kids from 4 years old up to 21, mix of boys and girls, and they all absolutely loved it. The actors chosen were spot on, and the writing was top notch as well. To everyone involved in the revamping of the DCU, keep it up. And then I did like this one little blurb, and then we'll move into it. But from Doug Walker at Channel Awesome, it was his blurb from Rotten Tomatoes. So he is a critic. He said, like its main character, the film seems drunk, lost, confused, and never seems to sober up. So before I get into my thoughts in it, I'd love to hear just your kind of first reactions. Hey guys, if you could take a quick second and subscribe, that'd be really helpful for us, and we can keep bringing you these reviews. Thanks so much.
Yeah, those reviews are pretty funny. I feel like they're like such on the opposite ends of things. My initial reaction was I thought I was definitely like a little disappointed. Because I did have higher hopes because I did read the line or the comic line that it was based on, and I really enjoyed it. And I read it earlier this year. And
so you read it in prep for the movie, or did you just happen to come across it?
Well, I mean, in a way of both. I had a long trip overseas, and I just needed material to read, and so that was just one of those things. And I was like, I was excited, and I kind of knew the synopsis, which was like interesting. I know nothing about generally kind of like overarching DC lore and world, aside from just like the usual like Justice League stuff. So I was like excited, and I did really like the comic and or graphic novel or whatever. It was I thought it was very beautiful, and I thought the story was really, really cool and interesting, especially for something that I wouldn't have expected for that character, right? At least from what I know based on that character from other forms of media. But the movie itself I thought was, I think, overall just kind of average. And I think that was the most disappointing thing about it. And I think it really had to do mainly with character choices and the writing specifically. I don't think it's like, going back to the reviews, I don't think it's like not worth anybody's time, because I do think formalistically, like I thought it looked actually really good for most of it. I saw it in IMAX though. I don't know if you saw it in IMAX.
Okay.
And I don't know if that makes a difference.
I was stuck watching it in 3D.
Oh, shoot. Oh, that must have been interesting.
It was just the only time that worked for me yesterday.
Yeah.
Which I don't mind 3D. Sometimes it's cool, but
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, other than that, that's kind of, my sort of initial reaction, which was like, if I had to give it like a review or something, I would give it like a C plus, B minus type, around that area, I would say. Like, I think it, as a movie and as like a summer blockbuster, it hits a lot of what you need it to hit, but not much more, which I was like hoping for there to be more, if that makes sense. Yeah.
It's always really hard for me when a movie has that much money behind it. And it happens all the time where movies like that are awful. But it just really feels like, how did this not turn out amazing?
Yeah.
Specifically for me, the biggest problem was like the script. For sure. Which was written by someone with one writing credit. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm. I did sort of notice that. Like, in lieu of my prep, like, I tried not to look anything up about it aside from what I already knew, which was like, I saw maybe a trailer or two, but then once I knew kind of we were doing this, I just tried to go in as fresh as possible. And I don't even know the Rotten Tomatoes score, or I didn't read any other reviews before we did this, or I saw it either. I mean, I looked that up kind of this morning, and I was shocked to see that, the writer had only really, and she's, I think, mainly an actress too.
She's an actress.
I did hear that she had written, again, this is all sort of speculation, but she had written a Supergirl script for the version that we saw in The Flash with Sasha Calle. And I don't know if maybe that was a great script and that gave her the job for this. I mean, who knows? I don't know how that generally works.
Interestingly, you brought up like the way that it looks, and I thought it looked really good too. There were multiple, I forget how many, it could have just been 2, but I think it was like 4 or 5 that mentioned that it felt like dark and brown and like, I forget the terms that were used, but people did kind of complain about the overall look of it. I don't know if they were expecting something like much more vibrant, like what the Superman movie was, but there were some complaints there, which I was surprised because I did think that it looked good overall. Judging from watching with 3D glasses on, which just like
I mean, if you wanted to kind of dive into the look of the movie, like, I personally felt like, and I don't have any like great comparisons off the top of my head, but like, a lot of these big studio, especially superhero movies, they generally kind of come together with like a very similar look, right? And I felt like not only did this one look different from those, but it did look different from even another movie within its same universe, like you had mentioned, like the Superman movie, which I thought was like cool. Like they kind of had it, I felt like, tailored to what I think the movie was supposed to be, which I think it kind of comes, like, on the surface level, it feels like a space Western. It's a darker story. Like, her character is a little bit more jaded and stuff like that. I think it worked really well. The locations they chose, a lot of it felt kind of like Mad Maxy in a weird, interesting way. I thought it was really great. I mean, the cinematographer, Rob Hardy, is like, he's photographed some really good science fiction films. He's usually like Alex Garland's guy. And so, Ex Machina, Civil War, Annihilation, like he's really good at making these types of movies. And I think he did really well. I mean, same thing with like the production designer and a lot of that, like, I think that's what's more frustrating about it is, like you said, it's like, it's a ton of money, a ton of really great artists coming in to kind of create this. But I think the weakest part was the script and maybe a little bit of the direction, I would say,
I agree. Before moving into those, because I want to spend a good amount of time there, with the look, I thought it was really interesting that there was a lot to do with just the sun or the suns in the film, red sun, yellow sun, green sun. And so I think that provided for a lot of opportunity for the cinematography to say, what kind of world are we on? You know, if it's not nighttime, then we're dealing with daytime. So what kind of sun are we in? And like, we don't want red sun to just make everything look like pure red, but we want it to have a tint. If it's yellow sun, we want to feel like this is where her powers are. And then obviously the green sun was very like direct. But I did think that made it kind of, I bet an interesting and almost exciting thing for the cinematographer to be able to like kind of mess around with those different worlds rather than just kind of making everything look the same.
Yeah, I agree. I felt like it was, I would agree with that for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess I just have so many complaints with this movie, just so you know where I'm coming from up front. Like I really was not impressed, but I want to, before going into things that fall short, besides the imagery, what were some things that worked for you? And I have a few that worked for me as well, but
I mean, I really liked Millie Adcock as Supergirl. I mean, I liked I liked the direction of where they started her character. Like I liked it, at least to me, it felt like they were trying to make a standalone movie while also incorporating her into this universe that they're just kind of starting. I can imagine that was like very difficult, and I can imagine that's also probably why it felt like an incohesive movie. Like it just didn't. It felt like they were having to make all these different decisions, and I we don't know, right? But I mean, I liked the casting quite a bit. Aside from I thought everybody was really great in terms of the performances. Like they were great. Like nobody stuck out to me. Interestingly enough, trying to think of what else. So aside from the cinematography, I liked some of the needle drops they had. Nothing super crazy or special, but interesting. I liked that it was a different. It felt like it was taking a risk, but not enough. And I think that's my biggest complaint, not to complain about this movie the whole time, is that like I think I wanted the movie to go one way or the other, and to make a sort of a decision, and it felt like it was like really stuck in between all the decisions they kind of had to make. This is how I felt.
Yeah, I think most of the actors worked well per their role. Definitely Millie she's great. I mean, not only is she a great actress, but just the whole unique look that she has, I think just brings kind of a dynamic element to any character that she plays, to be honest. And then, Jason Momoa is just Jason Momoa, and he's always fun to watch, just out there being himself.
Yeah.
I thought that Eve Ridley, who plays the young girl companion who's seeking revenge, I thought she was really weak. I
just don't. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it felt to me so much like every time she spoke, I was just judging her acting and trying to be like, is she a bad actor, or are they trying to do something with her that I'm just not getting? And I ended being like, I think she's just not a good actress. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know her from other things, but I just felt like she was not believable in any. Like I actually felt that if her character, or if the actress really brought something special to that character, the whole movie it still would have been bad in my opinion, but it would have worked better. Because I thought she was like a major weak point, and because of that, in some ways there was a buddy film element to this, since like the two of them were going together. She's half of that buddy, she's one of the two buddies, and because in my opinion she was so weak, that entire relationship just didn't work at all. Like, you can't save a buddy film from one side. They have to both be able to work well together. So I thought that she was weak. I thought Matthias, I don't know how to say his last name. Is it Schoenertz?
I don't know how to
I think.
pronounce it either. But
Okay.
yeah, I understand who you're talking about.
Yeah, with the main villain. I thought that he did fine. He was just incredibly generic Eastern European accented character. But as far as his acting, I thought he was okay. I really like him as an actor though. So I wanted more from that character because of that. Like I think you know this, but I love The Drop with Tom Hardy like so much, and he plays the antagonist in that, and I think he's like phenomenal in it with just this kind of very unstable, dangerous, but not as dangerous as he thinks he is man. I mean, he's dangerous, he's an abuser and stuff like that. So I really like him and I was excited, and then I was just like, ugh.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Boring villain.
I think he's such a great and I think that's why I think what you're saying I think showcases more the writing than I feel like the performers. I mean, even the little girl, which I don't disagree with you, but I think for me, it was just like her character didn't have a lot to do. And also I think that the characters were written in a way that like just didn't make sense. And I think that that's sort of, or how they acted didn't make sense with what I felt like the whole movie was trying to say. And I think that was a massive problem. And I don't know, like, yeah, I don't know if we can't, because I haven't seen that actress. What's her name? Eve Ridley. I haven't seen her in anything else, so I can't really judge. Yeah. And so I think for me, it wasn't like, I think what you're given in that sense, it's like if your characters are just making different decisions or weird decisions, it's like it's sort of not on them, because it's like, yeah, a movie that what I think is trying to say is like this idea of revenge and not taking revenge, which goes like into like, which contradicts almost the ending to me, like quite a bit. I don't know. It's like they're trying to do like a buddy thing. They're trying to do like kind of like a True Grit type deal, and it just, the characters like right from the forefront just don't act like I feel like they should for this story. And I think that's what kind of ruins everything for me in that sense.
Yeah, I think another huge, well, as we kind of move into talking about writing, because I think that's the biggest problem by far. And when I look and I see, oh, this writer has only written one other project, that just boggles my mind. Like if she would have done a great job and it was like, wow, they were really smart to bring on this newbie, how'd they know? And James Gunn must have worked with her to make this really great. That could be a conversation that we're having, but instead the conversation we're having is, wow, this really felt like someone who's written one script and needs like a lot more work to bring this whole thing together. Because, it's easy to judge a film after it's been made, to be like, and be like, oh, that's not good. And, you do filmmaking, I do some filmmaking. At the same time, when you see something like this, it's like so much talent went into this movie. And whenever I critique something, it's like, I'm not saying I could do it better. However, when it comes to the script, I think you can look at a script and say, people read this and they didn't see all these issues. That is surprising to me. Like, I do think that was a failure on the part of whoever was working, not just the screenwriter, but whoever was like the script doctor or whatever, to help bring that to a place that ends with like what feels like not just fun, but kind of a powerful movie too. Because I think that, and then I was going to say, I also wonder, and you've read the book, so you can tell me, whenever someone's trying to adapt something and you critique it, and if you haven't read the original source material, people will say, well, you don't get it because you didn't read the source material. They were trying to adapt this and that. But in my opinion, hey guys, again, if you could take a second and subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Whenever you're adapting anything, your job is to take that source material and to be able to tell a good story. If your whole goal is to just take it page for page and turn it into a film, then yeah, what are you going to critique in the writing? Because that was maybe your goal from the beginning. My only critique would be like, don't do that. That's a bad idea. But I don't think you can see a movie that has all the issues that it had for me and say, well, you know, the problem was the original story. It wasn't the movie, because I think it's your responsibility to take, especially something written, and say what will work from this in the film world. And that's why, so I just finished the Lord of the Rings books. Yesterday I finished Return of the King. And, you know, I know that they're different from the movies in a lot of ways. I was actually surprised as I read through them, the moments that were carried over into the movies. But what was so cool to me I would see lines of dialogue throughout that were said by other characters at other parts of the books that they incorporated into the movies in ways that, while at least you're watching it on screen, felt more appropriate. And I don't want to down Lord of the Rings, the writing at all, because I do think that it seems as though it's the greatest fantasy book. They're the greatest fantasy books ever written, or certainly it would be hard to put anything above them. And I did think that they were amazing. Obviously, they're 20 million times better than anything I could ever write, and they're better than anything basically anybody could ever write. So this is not to down them, but when I look at Peter Jackson's, the position he's put in, where he's dealing with okay, most people think these are the greatest books in an entire genre, and I have to take them and put them on the screen. He could say, well, they're the greatest books, so I'll just put exactly what's in the book on the screen. But instead, in my opinion, he just made decision after decision that was that was right. You should have cut that. You should have changed that character to this character. I mean, the biggest thing after you finish Return of the King is going they spend so much time after the movie is basically the story is basically over. And in the book, he just goes into this whole other thing where the hobbits go back home and they have to clear the Shire of all these ruffians, and they have to take down Saruman because Saruman went back there. And it's the story's over. I'm done. I'm ready to be done with this book. And here we are lingering around. And Peter Jackson went, yeah, the movie's done. We're not going to spend an extra hour going back to the Shire and watching them do this stuff, because the story is over. So instead, what he did is he took a lot of those moments and he put them elsewhere in the film. He put Saruman's death and Grima Wormtongue killing him, which all happens in the book. He puts it in a totally different place at the beginning of Return of the King, after Orthanc has been overtaken, and there's tons of thing after thing where is like that. As I was reading it, being why? I mean, it just made me love the movies even more. But that was a super long way to say that anyone who says, well, you didn't read the source material, that's why you didn't like it, in my opinion, that's a terrible line of thinking, because you can take a book and adapt it for the screen, and that requires more than just you going scene for scene, in my opinion. Now, you've read the book. I want to hear.
Well, it's interesting that
did they go scene for scene? How do they do?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I feel like adaptations, people who usually read the source material always like the source material more, for the most part. And I think it has to do with people's own imaginations, and I mean, this one is I think almost not offensive, but just it's a graphic novel. It's a comic book. The imagery is there too, so it's hard to kind of, I don't know. I think they made changes from the graphic novel to screen that sort of made it worse. And I think it had to do with the story choices. I don't know, Krem, the bad guy in the book, is, they kind of added all this backstory of why he murdered the girl's family and parents and stuff like that. In the book, he just kind of does it because he's an asshole. And that, I think someone could argue, well, that, that's not as good of a bad guy. But in a way, he's just kind of sort of inherently evil person. In the movie, they kind of added this like human trafficking element, which was not in the book. And I wonder if they did that just to sort of, spoiler alert, like to justify Supergirl killing him at the end. Which I think, again, is like completely different for what I think the actual theme and story of that specific story was trying to tell. In the book, it's mainly in the perspective of the little girl, which I thought was very interesting. Like it's sort of her story, and she's kind of telling it in a way that makes Supergirl the protagonist, but not the POV character, which I thought was really interesting, and kind of helps tell her backstory a little bit. They kind of uses it as a great way to incorporate the backstory with Krypton and her, kind of really showcasing the contrast between her and Clark, and how they grew up and what made her to what she is, I think. And I mean, they don't kill Krem in the book. They actually put him in the Phantom Zone for like 300 years. Or something, or something like that. And they, at the end of the movie or the book, they release him, and he's essentially like, he's reformed because he's spent like so much time like imprisoned, and he has to face Ruthie when she's like much older too. As she's sort of the one telling this whole story. Is very interesting, and I think I liked that ending a little bit better because he kind of begs for her forgiveness and all this stuff at the end.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting, and it has to do with like, because it talks about like sort of or it deals with like an unreliable narrator, so to speak, because Ruthie's the one that's telling the story in the book. And at the end, you're led to believe, from what I remember, you're led to believe that Supergirl does kill Krem, but in reality, and she takes on that, like, kind of like the ending of The Dark Knight. She like, the story across the universe is that Supergirl kills Krem for this thing, when in reality he's imprisoned in the Phantom Zone. But she only does that to protect Ruth and her family from getting from retaliation, other revenge from his crew of people. And so that, I felt like the themes were just a lot more clear and stronger in the book. There's still the crypto thing, which I think, is sort of a great connection to the current DC universe, because he was already a character, and then it's a good motivation for Supergirl to do what she does initially, because she's like, it is like you said, it's like a buddy film, but it's sort of like one character I feel like should be reluctant in the Supergirl character, and she's much more reluctant in the book to go help Ruth, way more, and I think that helps the storyline a little bit better. I'm trying to think of what else was different.
Well, tell me this, was because I felt like one of the biggest failures of the film is that its emotional core and the themes and maybe the thesis of the film is really scattered and honestly kind of self-contradictory.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering, in the book, is she going through that same, I don't want Ruthie to get revenge because it's gonna like ruin her soul? Is that central to the book?
Yes, it's central to the book, and it's a lot more, I would say, honed in and clear with like the events that happen in the story as well. I mean, they cut out an entire sequence, which makes sense because it was much longer in the book, where they visit another planet, and I forgot the sort of main part, but it's like a story about two essentially different races of aliens trying to coexist, and it ends with them finding out that one essentially commits like mass genocide on the other, and it just kind of and it has to do with like revenge and sort of pettiness and all this kind of like going back and forth. They cut that out of the movie, which makes sense because it's like a very long sequence, and almost like a different B story. But it, a lot of what happens in the characters' actions all, I think serve that theme and what they're trying to say underlyingly. There's no Lobo in the book, although I did hear that like the main original author wanted it to originally be a Lobo and Supergirl book story, so they kind of did it for the movie instead. I mean, that was kind of like one of my other small little things. Like, as much as like Jason Momoa is like charismatic, and I think he's great as that character, like I'm not sure if we really needed that character in this story at all.
Yeah, well, I have no idea what purpose that he played. His relationship with her was totally confusing. She's like, stay away from him. He's got a god complex. And it's like, what is your past? Do you have a past? Because we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And you don't recognize each other, or he doesn't recognize you. So there is no past. And so we're just going to have Jason Momoa in makeup kind of like pop up throughout this movie and fight people with no connection to anything at all. And no stake in the story.
Yeah.
It was so bizarre.
Yeah, it was really random and very confusing, I would say. Yeah, I mean, I think, and I felt like they wrote her in a way that was like, just didn't make sense to me. Like, why would she be, like the two times where she gets into like a really bad spot, I think is like complete like character, not suicide. It just doesn't make sense. Like, why would she trust so many? She does it twice in the movie. And I was like really almost offended because I was like, why would this character do this? Like, she almost doesn't care about anybody at this point. And then they have this backstory where she's, all of her, or they allude to her experiences like on basically destroyed Krypton and dying race and stuff like that. And like, but then all of a sudden she's okay with like trusting people that she's never met before, who've already lied to her. And then right before she's like dropped on the planet with the green sun, she trusts the bad guys. So I was like very confused, and I felt like, it was like I was a little bit more upset because I was like, well, this is easily what the child character should be doing, right? There should be this like, this, it's almost like a coming of age thing too. It's like this child is
naivete,
so like set on, what I think they want is like a bloodlust, which they also didn't show. She should be so tunnel visioned for revenge and like doing what she can to kill this one man that like took everything away from her, which also didn't show up in the movie very much. And I think that's kind of like, that's what I mean, where like, I don't think they gave that actress enough to do, like, unfortunately, because I felt like there should have been and could have been that conflict between Kara and Ruthie, like almost the entire time, and there just isn't. Kara ends up making a lot of the bad decisions, which don't make sense to me. And I don't know if that was like what they were trying to say, like, because I think in the movie she's a lot younger than she would have been in the book, essentially. But
okay.
I don't think that's like the kind of, and I think that's kind of that sort of push and pull, and also what I mean, which is like they should have went one way or the other. I also think like people may disagree with me, but I feel like Supergirl could have been more unlikable in the beginning, and I think that would have been a much better arc for that character. And I think they kind of got scared, which I don't think they should have, because I think Millie Adcock is quite likable as an actor and very charismatic. And like, I think if she played and they showcased her to be a little bit more unlikable in the beginning, I think the ending, I think there would just been more to root for,
Yeah.
And
yeah. Are you saying kind of like the fact that, at the beginning, she says, no, I'm not going to go with you. Revenge is not going to make you feel any better. But then when the sword gets stolen by that first alien, she goes out and like fights for it and then gives it back to her. So it was like, you haven't shown at all any kind of reluctance to help that would have provided an arc for you. You really were just kind of the same the whole time. And really everything with the girl, you never changed at all. You just were like, oh, Crypto, I need to save Crypto. And it's like, I've got this like tag along the whole time that is basically just an annoyance to me,
Sure.
to her and to the audience. Just be like, why does this person keep showing up? I don't care at all. But and this is another problem that I have is, well, okay, I think this was the biggest issue because I think that the emotional core didn't work, and it all leads up to what you're doing. With any movie, you're supposed to be building towards some sort. Not you're supposed to be. It's helpful for movies to build towards some sort of climax ending in a catharsis of some kind. And the ending here is the climax is that final fight, and then they kind of win, and then they go up, and Ruthie is going to finally get her revenge, or, you know, as far as from her perspective, she's like, finally, this is what I've been working for. And then Kara comes up and tries to stop her from doing the revenge. But we have, for one, it's conflicting as the audience, because I'm like, okay, well, I've watched plenty of revenge movies like Gladiator where I'm perfectly excited and happy to watch the person get revenge on the bad guy, and we all kind of want him to die. So then what you're forcing me to accept, which I think as a moral, I do think is true, that her not committing the revenge is better. But my basis for that is much more spiritual and doesn't really work super well in a superhero world. Anyway, the point is that we've got Kara, as you say, Kara, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Kara. Yeah. So we've got Kara there who's got this moral principle, and we have no idea where it came from. No idea at all. She's just like, if you kill them, it's going to hurt your soul. In almost any good movie, she will be speaking from experience. She will be the one whose soul has been tainted. That's why she's a drunk at the beginning.
Yep.
That's the backstory that we learn as we go along. And then that's why she tells her to not do the final thing. Ruthie listens. Ruthie leaves. She goes in and stabs him in the throat because her soul has already been crushed. And we go, yep, all right, yeah, we wanted him to die. It's good that she stuck up for the soul of Ruthie, but yeah, I mean, we're all kind of like, yeah, he needs to die, and your soul is already like tainted, so just go ahead and go do it. To me, that is like the fact that nobody read that screenplay and went, why does Supergirl not have the background that allows her that allows this tension to have any meaning, is like beyond me. It just seems so like, and there was actually nothing in her past that to me led to a dynamic character like that with some experience, because the experience she had was basically all of my people started dying. My parents started dying. I got kicked off to a different planet with a cousin who's like so nice and like has adjusted perfectly. You know, I mean, he adjusted because he got raised by a nice family. The point is that like her like wallowing in despair throughout the galaxy is just, well, for one, it's like, if she's flying around to different parts of the galaxy, it seems like she could just go back to that. I guess maybe Krypton was it all ended up being destroyed. Anyway, the point is that she was in basically a drunken, my life's so terrible state that had nothing behind it besides like, your life's kind of hard. So nothing she said throughout the rest of the movie was based in anything in her past. And I thought that was a major, major issue.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's not just an issue. I think it's just like I think the hardest part, I think, that you and I are kind of coming to is like, it just felt like an easy missed opportunity. And that's easy to say, like having just seen it and not being involved in any of it in the making of it.
Yeah.
But,
and you also never know what gets changed by all the people that those movies have to go through before they get to the audience.
But it did feel like, I think, wow, it could have been such a great, they're already using all these flashbacks. They're using, all these like devices, right? That tell this specific story. Like, why not, because I felt like it was very front heavy with the flashbacks in terms of Krypton. Like, I think a lot of people wouldn't and don't know like her backstory and the specific backstory, like having that be sort of a reveal where like, no, she's like, or like having everybody in the universe be like, why are you so sad? Superman's like doing great. He was able to leave. You were able to leave. But then having this reveal where it's like, no, she was like imprisoned in a dying planet, having to watch all of her people slowly die. That is a good reveal. That is, and then you add it to like, maybe an early decision where she does take revenge, or it's just, I felt like it's there, and it's there for her to be that for Ruthie, and it just never gets there. And I think that's the sort of more frustrating part. And I don't know, like when you look at all the elements that we were talking about before, cinematography, production design, acting, like they had all the elements. It's just they took the script and they didn't focus on that. They focused on, because like I liked a lot of that final set piece that they do. I thought that was like really cool. Like I thought. And again, it's like, I don't know, it's, you watch The Furious, right? And a lot of those movies, I think, do a good job of like building up towards those like really cool set pieces. And although that movie starts off with like some interesting set pieces, it kind of keeps going and going, where it's like, I think Supergirl would have been much like, I believe she could have been more unlikable in the beginning, and it would have created that change for her. I think it would have been cool for them to kind of save some of her powers and abilities, till a little later too, have her be on the losing side a lot of times in the beginning, because she doesn't care. I think we want to see as an audience, like people come back and, and be the underdog as she is. One of the other things I want to mention too is I think Krem, we like that actor very much, and he was just generic. Like he was, compared to many big bads in like superhero movies, he is kind of generic even in the book, but he's so much smarter in the book that I think in the movie, he just feels like a lucky guy. And I didn't like that. In the book, one of the big changes is because they do dump her on a planet with the green sun in the book. He's directly responsible for that in the book. Like it's like an ace up his sleeve. She basically catches him, and then he throws whatever plot device thing, but that transports her to this planet, and he traps her there. She doesn't get tricked. She just like, she just loses because he's that much smarter, in that sense. Like he's been preparing for her. And it's like this one, it's like, well, he just kind of like doing his thing. They're chasing him, and then he kind of gets lucky, or the main characters make some like really bad decisions that don't make sense for their characters. And I think that is another reason why, the movie just doesn't feel like as cohesive or, as it should be. I think in a way they kind of banked on like, people will see this movie because they want to see a Supergirl movie, or they want to see like good action and good visuals and stuff like that. And I think, I don't think you can fool the audience that much anymore at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I think that he was really weak, and a lot of the decisions, for instance, the fact that they even went to this planet with a green sun, were like, we didn't get the sense until then that he was really thinking about her as like a major threat. So it almost felt like there should have been the moment where nobody thinks she's that powerful, and then it's revealed like, oh wait, she is powerful and she almost got us. And then it's like he's like frustrated by it and has to use his intellect, because then it was like, where did these kryptonite arrows come from? Like, it felt, I rolled my eyes when she got shot by the kryptonite arrows. It was like, okay, now I have to be like, somehow you kind of just know that Krypton, like the kryptonite kills the Kryptonians. And I guess I can buy that, but I need to see you kind of showing that intellect and coming up and being like, oh, here's why I do this. Instead, it was just like, okay, I guess we all know this as comic book readers, and so sure, he's got kryptonite arrows, cool. But yeah, I definitely thought that he was lacking in basically every way. But yeah, you mentioned the idea of like everybody wants the hero at the end to kind of like show their true power or whatever, and if she was kind of messing up or like weaker toward the beginning, and I think that they did try to do that a bit. Like she started in the red sun, and then she got poisoned, and so she was a little bit out of it when she was fighting and trying to drink the milk. So they did that, and I think those were some good ideas. But her powers throughout the whole time really felt, because they were switching between suns and locations, and they tied her power so closely to what sun is she by, it just made it confusing to know, okay, how powerful is she right now? Because then you're going, well, why isn't she just doing this? Okay, well, I guess maybe she's not at her full strength, but isn't she in the sun? Isn't this a yellow sun play? So I was kind of constantly confused, and then I kind of wish that like she was in a red sun place the whole time, and almost like, and I don't know, I love Superman, but I'm not full on into the nerdy world as much as I could be. I'm probably in the top 10%, but like of just regular people, but I'm not like deeply nerdy. So I don't fully know, but it feels like, okay, if she was in a red sun type place or somewhere that kind of like lowered her powers, but didn't make her totally like, oh, you're basically just a human. Like you could fully die right now. And then so she was always kind of still had some power to be able to go toe to toe with some stronger people. And then at the end, when the yellow sun finally like comes out and it's like, oh, you guys are in trouble now. Like that would be cool. But instead it was like, she kind of was in the yellow sun lots of times throughout the movie. And it felt like, okay, well, you're like Superman. Like you have super speed and crazy super strength and laser eyes. And like Superman in the DC universe is considered one of the most powerful beings in the universe. So it's kind of like, and my understanding is that she's not necessarily like way behind him. I mean, maybe she is, but she's still clearly like,
yeah, I don't know why
powerful.
She wouldn't be. I mean, I don't know why she would be way behind him. They're the same race. They get their power from the sun, aside from she's just smaller, and like less muscular, I get. But it's like, I don't know if those rules even apply to like when you're in the yellow sun, when they clearly have so much power,
Yeah. So then at the very end, even when she's like up on the ship and she's whipping, that cord around and knocking people down, even that is like, you're not showing like your true power. But then at the very end, when she shoots like the laser eyes and goes out of the water and is up in the sun and then starts just destroying everyone, it just felt like there was no reason that I could see for you to not be equally as powerful as this multiple other times in the movie. You just kind of weren't. And that was just kind of lame to me. Like, I don't think that they had a good it just made it confusing, because I constantly was wondering, like, what kind of sun is she in? And, like, what should she be able to do or not able to do? So, I really didn't like that, because I love Superman. He's my favorite superhero. And I think that their powers are super, super fun. Super fun. But I don't know. The way that they did it with her and the confusing nature of it, I thought really ruined a lot of the cool factor for me. Because for me, I'm like, okay, if a movie's not going to be, if the writing's going to be bad, at least the action needs to be really cool. But I personally did not find this action cool. It was like she was kind of doing half Wonder Woman stuff, you know, where she would like go down on the ground and like sweep people's legs and like do a lot of kicking. But which just doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like super. That feels like a Wonder Woman thing. It doesn't feel like a Supergirl thing. Supergirl feels like you're like way more powerful than everybody. You do, like people should be punching your face and their hands are breaking. Like that's the kind of power that at least Superman has. So, and I know that the DCU has kind of made Superman a little less powerful than he is in a bunch of other iterations. And I'm kind of fine with that because it is hard to put Superman in a movie because he's so freaking powerful. But, you know,
yeah, I mean,
I was always happy with like Man of Steel and Justice League and stuff. I don't love those movies, but just his powers in them I like.
Yeah, I mean, but I think, you know, yeah, they made him sort of less, but I felt like he was still all powerful in the James Gunn version, right? Like the parts where they made him weak either had to do with either kryptonite or he was struggling with like a moral issue than anything else, which I think makes sense for his character, and that is in a better way, like how you sort of nerf that character at times to make him like less powerful. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point from your end. Like, yeah, I didn't even think about even her fighting style, because yeah, I felt like that should have also been its own thing and it'd been more interesting. And I did enjoy the last part where it felt like she was kind of going all out, and they, you know, they did that in a very, I think some pretty cool, like they kind of saved the slow motion only for that sequence, which was like very cool. And I felt like you said, I think they did try to kind of have that build up to it. It just, I think it would have been better for the story had they withheld some of that, I guess, earlier on, a little bit more. So yeah.
Another issue, and I'm just like starting to list my issues with it, but you know, I like hearing you even kind of push back on some of them because it's helpful. But I felt that the villain was really thin. And just generic, like we talked about. But I also thought that Ruthie who was really central to the movie, was extremely paper thin. It was like, I don't know who she or her family is. I just know they were killed by this guy. And I don't know why they were killed by this guy. And like, he's like a sword maker. And I'm guessing in the book, that sword matters. Maybe not.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, it just to me was like, okay, this sword is continually featured. I don't know why he wants it, and I don't know why that she's important. It just feels like there should have been some background of like her dad's this great sword maker who made this like ultimate weapon or like the sharpest sword or whatever. And so, and she's been trained with it as she's grown up, and like just some sort of background thing where then they come and kill her parents, and it makes sense. And then we have some sort of feeling for her of like, you're not only not crazy lame, but you also have a really cool weapon.
Yeah.
That people kind of want. And almost like, yeah, because what's the bad guy's name? Krem? Yeah, so like, I don't know if the sword was something that Krem was looking for some meaningful reason, and then he didn't find it, and then maybe even the sword itself had the ability to like kill even Kara. I don't know. There just seemed to be like opportunities there that were missed because they didn't find any way for you to like, they found the thinnest reason for you to care about her was she watched her family die, and we have no idea why, and it doesn't matter at all. It's just a revenge story with nothing behind it.
Yeah, and I think making the decision to switch out of her POV for the movie, like instead of the book, I think kind of that is kind of what is lacking in that, because you know her a little bit more because she's narrating the story, right, in the book. And in the book, I guess one of the big differences is like in the movie, Krem comes because her dad is this weapons maker, and he's trying to steal them, I suppose. And then in the movie, it's kind of like, it's more of like a tragic misunderstanding because her brother comes out to like scare her and then gets killed, and that's kind of what happens. In the book, like he's a Kingsguard on their planet, and he's basically kind of like a version of like the Gestapo. He basically, her dad says something like offensive about the king of their planet, and this guy comes, starts shit, and then kills him, and then that's it.
Oh yeah. So then we're dealing with something more like Inglourious Bastards,
right? Where
it's like you care about Shoshana, and you know like how evil the guy is towards. Yeah.
So
totally. I just, oh my God.
Yeah. So, and it also, like, I think that aspect of it also adds to the sort of like pettiness of revenge too. It's like this guy kills in cold blood, and you're basically wanting to do the same to him just because he did that to your father. And it still holds weight under the story and the theme that they're trying to like establish and tell. And in the movie, it just doesn't. I feel like they try to give a better reason for general audiences to sort of understand, and or like a better reason to like hate him, that he's essentially like a human trafficker. Like, they had that aspect, which felt, they didn't need it, in my opinion. Maybe they thought they did to make him more evil or to justify his death at the end, but I just don't think it like works. It works really well for kind of what they were trying to do. So yeah, you bring up a good point, but yeah, that's the thing in the book, and I'm again surprised they changed that, because it's not a modern fear that people have, or like it's interesting they decided to go that way.
It really feels like they were like, let's get to the story as quickly as we can. Like, I feel like there's this mindset going on now that's basically like, okay, TikTok and Instagram and Facebook Shorts and YouTube Shorts, that's what everybody's doing now, and so attention spans have gone down, so like, let's just get into the action as quickly as we can. And then so they do that, and then they cut their legs out from under them, because the whole rest of the movie just doesn't matter to anybody, because you didn't set up the movie. And I think that people are always going to have a hunger for good storytelling. We're spending maybe more time watching 30 or 60-second things that interest us, but when I come to a story, which I think is one of the most important things in life, is just story and how it affects us, and the power that having a good story and a good moment. And if I was in that moment and Kara had committed revenge, that we kind of built that story, that backstory showed us the whole time, and then we finally got to see, oh, this is why you're so against her having revenge, and so you tell her to stop, and she does. It's like that's so powerful for influencing the psyche, influencing how we think, hopefully in a positive way. Obviously, movies have the power to do that for good or for evil or somewhere in between. But people not only need that, but I feel like people will always want that. And so playing to these other types of mediums by talking about how people's attention spans have changed or whatever, I just think is so foolish, and you end up with really dumb movies that have no power behind them, and that sucks.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder. I mean, who knows? Like, we don't know how many times this was like test screened and whatnot, or changed, and I have no idea. And not to take anything away from any of the like the artists and stuff like that, but yeah, it is like a shame, I feel like, because you have so much money involved and so many people spending a lot of their time and passion in it, and then it like overall the story just doesn't work, I feel like. And yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of I would say the main thing about the film, and why I was left a little disappointed for the most part.
Yeah. How do you feel like this movie is going to have an impact on the future of the new DCU?
I mean, it's hard to tell, I guess. Everything is so based on like box office now, and I think there is a version or a level of like superhero fatigue, so it's not like it's like foolproof. But, people have been saying that for a very long time, and it's not like they've sort of stopped. And there's a possibility that they could continue to make more. I mean, I think the unfortunate, like most cynical outlook you can have is like, if this doesn't do as well as it should for them, then they won't make another Supergirl movie, which would be kind of a shame in my opinion, because I think the character is like fairly popular. I mean, like it did make me happy. Like I saw a screening at like IMAX in Albuquerque, and I would say not a lot of people go to see movies here, like in general. But the theater was like filled with a lot of people, and there were just a lot of people that were like really excited for the character and just there for the character to see them like on the biggest screen they could with the best sound, and they were really excited, and they were still excited when the film was done. And I found that very like joyful, and like when it was done, like people in my theater were clapping, and I could genuinely see like how excited they were to just see the character kind of projected like that. And I think, and maybe that's what they were kind of like initially hoping for. They were like, yeah, well, there'll be people. But I think, if they just did the extra step of like kind of putting all that all together with the script and the story, I think it could have been so much better for just the industry and that genre if they really wanted to. I felt like, I felt like they were trying to take as many risks as they could, but they just couldn't go all the way. I think, I can only imagine that like the decisions they ended up going with were more or less safer bets. And even more so than like, I would say the James Gunn Superman film, which I felt like when I first saw it, and I've only seen it once, it felt more of like, oh yeah, this feels like a one person able to make a lot of the decisions and follow through with that. Whether you agree with them or not, I felt like it was just like someone's vision kind of being seen through. And this movie, unfortunately, doesn't feel that way. It feels like it was like by the committee type deal, just because of how many like contradictions there were to the story and changes and stuff like that. That's the only thing I can wonder, That's kind of a shame. What do you, I mean, what do you think? How do you think it'll fare, or what do you think it'll do, I suppose?
Well, I really don't think it's going to make a lot of money. I know there's some positivity around it. I know that some people like it. The audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is like a 75%, which is not super low. Critics, I think, is 59. So people aren't like, oh boy, critics said 27, I'm not going to go see it. So some people will go see it still. But because it lacks that catharsis, it doesn't stay with people after the movie. Some people, for whatever reason that they were hit by generic. I have movies that I loved that are like, this is not a well-written movie. It's got a ton of issues, but for whatever reason, I really liked it. So, anytime that you critique films, people get like offended if you think the movie was terrible. I do think that this was a terrible movie in my opinion, but I don't think that if you like it, that you're like dumb or anything like that.
Yeah, nobody should think that way in general.
Right. Yeah, right. But what I do feel very confident in, that I think is an objective thing that you can test is true or not true, is could they have done this differently in a way that would have made more people want to see it? So I think unless you go, no, this was the best they could do and it was always doomed to not make money, I think that's just I just think you're objectively wrong. I think a better script that connected in a more powerful way with more people would have made more money, because you would have left the theater going, that did something meaningful. Oh, you have to go see that. Even if it was just really cool, you'd be like, oh, it's so cool, you got to go see it. Like, even if the script wasn't that great. But especially if the script was great and the action was great, it'd be like, this will make money, because that's what people want to see. It's great script and great action. with the superhero movie. So
yeah.
Anyway, I was pretty disappointed. And it's not like I certainly am not against superhero movies. I love superhero movies, and I'm also not like just living out of superhero fatigue either. Like Fantastic Four came out, I think last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or was it 2 years ago?
I think so. Last year,
It was last year. I loved it. It so much. So I'm not coming from a place of that, and I also think Supergirl's a really cool superhero. But yeah, I thought they missed the mark on virtually every element of this movie.
Yeah.
Interestingly,
it's
I think the presence of Supergirl and the presence of Lobo were the right thing, or like they're not the presence in the movie, but literally their like aura, like their like how they felt as the way they looked and the characters that were playing them. It's just like they weren't in a good movie. Like they were like great characters who were waiting to be written into a good movie, and they weren't. So hopefully they bring on a better writer for if they do another Supergirl movie, or if she only ends up being like a player in the Superman films, or shows up in the Batman film, or whenever they eventually do Justice League stuff, she's a part of it. That's cool too. But I agree with you. I would like them to at least give one more, even if this loses money, to give one more shot to Supergirl and hire someone who's written more than one script to
and
to write it.
And I don't know much. I haven't seen a lot of like Craig Gillespie's stuff. I mean, I've seen like I, Tanya and maybe some other things, but he's not a director that I like was super excited to go see this. Like I mean, if they wanted someone who was kind of like, I mean, if we're doing like a fantasy booking thing, like I think, funny enough, I think Shane Black would have been like a very excellent choice for this. Like if he was like available or like interested, just because like he did like Iron Man 3, which had like kind of a similar like story where the main superhero wasn't like powered for a lot of it. There's like a little buddy aspect, which he's really good at. He's good at making or writing characters that are unlikable, but also like with the right actor, like Robert Downey or even Millie Adcock, it's like it doesn't matter. Like it's funny, it's good, and and they're still always learning something and having like a great, I think, catharsis at the end. So I think I would have really liked to have seen something like that in this, but we just didn't get that in this timeline, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and he clearly is a great director. I mean, I think very highly of I, Tanya. I think it's just one of the fantastic, really for me, one of the best biopic sports movies that I've seen. Really well, the acting is really well directed. So it's like, okay, I know you can direct acting. I mean, a lot of it has to do with Margot Robbie's a great actor. Paul Walter Hauser is hilarious in it. So it's got a good cast. But anyway, the point is that like you can't look down at him as a director, even though now I'm like, I certainly wouldn't have you direct another superhero movie if I was a studio head, because I don't think that you were able to bring the same level of excellence that you have been able to do with your other films.
I agree.
So
yeah, I mean, he's made some
with
like
every movie. I'm like, I would have loved to see the Russos do like every superhero movie.
Sure.
Like they're just
they're good at it. Yeah, they're good at it. I mean, it's like really interesting. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm kind of with you. Like I'm not like, I really like the superhero genre. Maybe there's a little fatigue, but I think the fatigue more is like there's so much good like inspiration in the original stories to like mine from. And I feel like as filmmakers, like we can adapt those really well. And it's been done before, so it's like you can just keep going. But I think there's just so much, like whatever it is that doesn't allow them to do that, which is at the end of it, just very frustrating for the most part. Yeah.
Agreed. All right. So if you're talking to somebody about it, would you tell them to see it, skip it, or stream it?
I don't know. I really am a proponent of people seeing movies in the theater either way. So I honestly would say like go see it. I know we kind of just spent like a good amount of time talking about its main flaws, but I think as a summer blockbuster, if you're looking for something that looks pretty, is has some decent action, um and if you're really into the character, for sure. I mean, but if you're still interested, I'd say why not? Like if it's a movie out in your theater that you know it's probably in most theaters, right? And I would say check it out, especially if there's nothing better. I definitely encourage people to see it. I think most people would stream it and be fine, but I think there are a lot of those kind of movie theater experiences. A movie like this, is nice to see in theater.
Yeah, go see it in a theater. I mean, we're both under the like go to the theater. I mean, go see a movie every week. That's my advice to people. If you want to be encouraged in life, go see a movie every week. But I will say one other thought I had is that I really liked Seth Rogen as the little alien guy, and I wish that he was like a more of the film.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can really know ahead of time how enjoyable a character is going to be able to know if you want to have them in more of the film from a writing standpoint. But like, he was just really funny to watch, even in the small amount that we saw him.
Yeah, that was interesting. I totally kind of forgot about that, and it was like a fun surprise. And then he's in, and then he's kind of out just like as quickly. And his voice is so recognizable. I mean, it brings up other like issues for me, which is like it could be distracting, but this was welcome, I think, for what they wanted to do. Yeah,
as long as he doesn't do the Seth Rogen laugh, then I don't get too distracted. If he did, it'd be like, oh boy, I can't not see his face.
Yeah.
Well, since you're here and you're the person to talk to about this, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about The Furious.
Sure. Yeah. Well,
you're my friend who tells me whenever there's a good martial arts film to see. So,
yeah, I mean, what's there to say with that? Like that wasn't said like in y'all's episode. Which
what did you think?
I mean, I loved it.
I don't know if you even liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it. I saw it by myself, and then when it first came out, because I was just afraid it wasn't going to be like in theaters like long enough. And then I had Sheena go see it too, and I saw it with her in theaters as well, and it was great. I mean, for what it was excellent in what it was as a movie. I mean, you can also make the same sort of complaints as we were for Supergirl in terms of the story. Like the story, I think, leaves so much lacking, but it's so overpowered by the relentless action in that movie that it's pretty much okay. But I felt like it was like, I don't know, culminating from like so many, I don't know, like the entire martial arts like genre. Like I think it had every element that was like very, very good that was incorporated into like modern cinema, which was like really interesting to me. I mean, they did so many homages. I mean, whenever I saw your podcast with Tyler and you guys were talking about how like the main bad guy was like a businessman, but also like the greatest fighter they had, which was interesting to me because I think I saw it as like a direct homage to Jackie Chan had a movie called, I think in America it was called The Legend of Drunken Master. I think in China it was called just Drunken Master 2. But the main villain in that is also a businessman. And the way their fighting styles were almost like the exact same. And I was like, oh, when I saw it in the movie, I was like, oh, that's what they're referencing in this movie.
Huh, that's interesting. That's cool.
And it's like really cool. Yeah. And so, yeah, it was just kind of like, it's like, that director, I forgot his name, Kenji something, but they clearly like such a big fan of martial arts, like cinema, and tried their best to incorporate almost everything they could, I think, into that movie. And it was like, Yeah, it was awesome. One of my favorites this year. Just so fun and so watchable.
Now, I said as I was reviewing it, that it felt for me like the greatest action and martial arts fight scenes that I've ever seen in a film. And people got upset because they're like, watch the Raid movies, which I've seen both of the Raid movies. I was taking those into account, and people love them. And so I feel like people got offended. From you, who has seen far more than even I have, and probably most of the people who are getting offended, am I way off to even feel that was like, I'm not saying it was leagues better. I just personally, when I was watching it, was more impressed with the choreography and just the amount. And I talked about this in the podcast too, the way that they utilized the spaces, I thought was really creative too, in a way that the Raid movies didn't quite ascend to. But maybe I'm way off. I need to go back and watch them, I guess.
No, I mean, it's all obviously a matter of opinion, but I wouldn't disagree if someone was like, oh my gosh, the greatest like choreography, martial arts on cinema. I mean, I think it in certainly like modern times for sure. I think there's nothing that is above it really. I mean, but it's like chicken or the egg. Like, could you get the Furious without the Raid movies? I don't know if you can, but that's because like, they're two different things. Like the Furious is made during a time when technically there's more access to technology and better cameras and stuff like that. Whereas like the Raid was technically a low budget indie movie, right? Like what is more impressive in that sense? I think the Raid does a really good job with editing specifically, and that's not to take away anything from the choreography. I just think that director, Gareth Evans, has such a good eye, not just for martial arts choreography, and he had such great collaborators with him in that sense, but he also really understood where to put the camera and how to cut in a very like unique way, because he was, I think, the editors of those movies. If you go back to like other martial arts cinema, like history, like a Jackie Chan movie, like in Hong Kong, they mostly shot everything like at the wide end of a zoom lens, because he had the time and he had the ability to be like a perfectionist, I think, in all the things. So it also in a way looks more impressive because there's like a natural rhythm in just a wide shot, and it's like, wow, that's great. And in the Furious, there's a little bit of a mix of that. They have these sweeping like crane shots, or there's like, you can tell it's like a handheld thing or Steadicam maybe, and they're holding on shots because every performer is really good at what they're doing. But then they also use editing really in a great way to kind of showcase and enhance that as well. And it's not to say that like, I think Jackie Chan and like Sammo Hung and a lot of those folks were actually really good editors. They understood how to edit stuff. There's a great video essay about this on YouTube too, about the way that works. And I think The Furious was just like, again, another way to kind of push that genre to like a better spot than it ever was. So it's like really interesting. I mean, I think the next, hopefully, like this type of genre that will come out in a more even Hollywood space is Donnie Yen is making a spinoff of his character for the John Wick movies, Kane. So like and he's directing it. So it's like I'm really curious like what that is going to be like, because then that'll have like the John Wick lore, but then it'll have this like very experienced actor, choreographer, director in the helm.
Now remind me from the fourth one, were they the two at the end who like shot at each other?
Yeah, he's a blind guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I only saw the movie once, so I like can't remember. I knew that Donnie Yen was in it, but I don't remember the movie very well except for like the stair scene.
Yeah, right. Yeah, interesting. And then I think a fun trivia thing is like the guy who directed The Furious was Donnie Yen's like, I think, stunt coordinator for a very long time. So he had worked with him for like decades. And so that kind of he adds in that sort of experience. And yeah, I mean, they just utilize every character had their own style, which was like really cool and interesting. And they again, they used it further for storytelling purposes, which you can argue is like better. Like in the Raid, like everybody can just kind of fight like a similar way. And they're showcasing like the Indonesian style of fighting, and I think that is great, right? But to have that sort of incorporated into the storytelling is interesting, and I think very helpful for that type of thing, you know. So yeah, it's for pure like action, I think it is one of the best. I mean, you can argue something like Hero or Crouching Tiger is definitely more artful and more story-based.
Sure,
even something like The Matrix, you know, where it's like incorporated into the story is like, oh yeah, that is like really, really cool. But yeah, I think this was, I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, I want to see it again, right? It's just like a great movie.
Yeah, I want to see it again too. I want to go with people who haven't seen it yet, because I feel like it'd be fun to just watch people watch it. So, well, cool. Quickly, I suppose, what's your Mount Rushmore of films? What are your top 4?
Oh man, it's hard to say. I guess off the top of my head, probably like John Carpenter's The Thing. Oh yeah, okay. John Carpenter's The Thing. The Coen Brothers' No Country for Old Men. Paul Thomas Anderson's Boogie Nights, and Park Chan-wook's Old Boy for me.
Really?
Just off the top of my head. I'm sure there are movies that I like or enjoy over those 4 movies, but off the top of my head, you know, as like a person who's been into film for a while, like those movies will always come up for me.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Nice. Love that list.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for doing this.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, dude.
This was fun.
Yeah.